Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, before we jump in, just take a second. When you hear American cinema, what pops into your head? Is it like explosions, fast cuts, big heroes saving the day?
Yeah, that's sort of the default, isn't it? The Hollywood machine. Speed, spectacle, everything wrapped up neatly. But today, we're diving deep into Kelly Reichardt. And she's pretty much the exact opposite of all that.
Totally. A powerful counterpoint.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to really get under the skin of her work. We're looking at her whole career, her life, her very distinct style, trying to understand why so many people see her as one of the most important American filmmakers working today, even though she actively avoids, the whole commercial game.
Or maybe because she avoids it. And yeah, let's nail down who she is right away. She's known for these incredibly minimalist films. People connect her to slow cinema and her focus. Almost always on working class folks, people on the fringes, often in these small rural settings.
She's telling stories that you just don't see coming out of the big studios. It's a whole different slice of America.
Exactly, documenting the margins.
Okay, so let's build this up from the beginning. Part 1, the foundation. How did this unique vision develop? She was born back in 1964, grew up in Miami. And the detail about her parents always jumps out at me. They were both in law enforcement.
Right, police officers. Who split up when she was young?
It's just an interesting contrast, isn't it? Growing up surrounded by, rules, authority, structure, and then spending her career exploring lives lived right on the edge or totally outside of those structures.
Oh, that's a great point. And maybe that early grounding in photography is key, too. That was her first passion, not film.
Ah, okay. So that patient eye composing a single shot.
Exactly. You can feel it in her movies. They feel like these carefully composed still images that are just allowed to breathe. The landscape, the small actions, washing dishes, walking, it all gets space.
And she formalized that with an MFA, right? From the School of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston.
Yep. But just as important, maybe even more so for her artistic freedom, is her academic side. She's been teaching for a long time.
Right, the position at Bard College. Since 2006. S. William Senfeld, artist in residence.
Precisely. And having that steady base, that academic role, it gives her incredible freedom. She doesn't need her films to make millions. She's not constantly chasing studio funding, which means she doesn't have to compromise. No pressure to speed things up or add explosions.
Which brings us to her debut, River of Grass, in 1994. Because that was, it was critically acclaimed, right? But then things went quiet for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Critically, River of Grass was a huge success straight out of the gate. Nominated for 3 Independent Spirit Awards, the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance.
Big deal publications loved it. Boston Globe, Film Comment, Village Voice called it one of the best of the year.
By all normal industry logic, her career should have just taken off like a rocket.
But it didn't. And this is fascinating. She talks about this lost decade, 10 years. From the mid-90s onward, she just couldn't get another feature funded.
10 years after that kind of debut praise, it wasn't like she took a break. The industry basically shut her out.
And she's been pretty direct about why she thinks that happened.
Heartbreakingly direct. She said point blank that she felt being a woman trying to raise money for these kinds of quiet, character-driven films was a major barrier. The money people just didn't see the commercial potential, especially with a woman at the helm of that kind of project.
Wow. So after all that initial success, 10 years of doors slamming shut, what did she do? Just give up?
Not a chance. This is where you really see her independence kicking in. She basically adopted this attitude of, fine, if you won't fund my features, I'll just make Super 8 shorts, like a fuck you to the system, as she put it.
Huh. Love that. So she kept working, just on a much smaller scale.
Exactly. She made shorts like Ode in '99, then A Year in 2001. It wasn't just about staying busy. It was about honing her style under extreme limitations, learning to do more with less.
And one of those shorts, Travis, from 2004, seemed significant. It tackled the Iraq War.
Yeah, quite directly for her. It was maybe the first really clear sign that her minimalist approach could carry serious political weight.
So even in that so-called lost decade, she was developing her voice.
Absolutely. Critics picked up on it too, saying Travis and sus. Then A Year showed her unease with the Bush administration, the war. It wasn't lost time at all. It was incubation. She was doubling down on low-budget realism, embedding critique within character. So when she did get back to features, her vision was rock solid, unshakable.
And the turning point, the thing that finally broke that decade-long drought,
Yeah.
it came about almost randomly. Involved Todd Haynes.
Yeah, her close friend, the director Todd Haynes, she drove him from the Seattle Film Festival down to Portland, and that trip was pivotal.
Because that's where she met writer John Raymond and producer Neil Kopp.
Exactly. And Raymond especially became this huge influence. He's the reason so many of her iconic films are set in the Pacific Northwest. He gave her these incredibly specific human stories rooted in that region.
Stories that just fit perfectly with what she wanted to do. Okay, so that connection really kickstarts everything again, which leads us nicely into part two, the ascent. The period from 2006 onwards really defined by Oregon, Montana, and John Raymond.
And that partnership bore fruit almost immediately with Old Joy in 2006, based on one of Raymond's short stories from his collection Livability.
And the plot is pure Reichardt, isn't it?
Yeah.
Two buddies, maybe drifted apart a bit. One feels kind of hemmed in by family life. They go camping. That's it.
Pretty much. A weekend trip to the Cascades, Bagby Hot Springs near Portland. All the drama is internal, unspoken, quiet tension.
But it wasn't quiet critically. It put her right back on the map internationally.
Big time. Old Joy won the Tiger Award at the Rotterdam Film Festival, which was huge. It was the first American film ever to win that award. Suddenly, this small, quiet film about two guys in the woods was getting major art house attention worldwide.
The momentum was back.
Yeah.
And she built on it straight away with Wendy and Lucy in 2008, also adapted from a Raymond story in Livability.
Yeah, and Wendy and Lucy really amps up those themes of loneliness, financial insecurity. It's just gut-wrenching. This woman, Wendy, her car breaks down. She loses her dog, Lucy, her only companion. She has basically nothing. It's about desperation on the margins.
And that film really brought Michelle Williams into the spotlight too, right?
Yeah.
There was serious Oscar buzz for her performance.
Definitely. And that kicked off this amazing collaboration between Reichardt and Williams. Reichardt talks about how much she values Williams's confidence, her curiosity. She sees her as a real partner in exploring the material.
That partnership is so central to her work now. But Reichardt didn't just stick to one kind of story after that. She started playing with genre, still often with Williams.
Absolutely. In 2010, she makes Meek's Cutoff, a Western.
Which sounds unlikely. A minimalist, slow cinema Western. The genre is usually about epic landscapes, gunfights, clear heroes and villains.
Right, but she flips it completely. Meek's Cutoff is about getting lost. It's 1845, pioneers on the Oregon Trail, completely stranded. It's claustrophobic, tense, almost silent sometimes, no score, just the wind, the creaking wagons, the fear.
So the focus is on the mundane struggle of survival, stitching clothes, finding water, the anxiety.
Exactly. The existential dread, not the heroic action. It's anti-spectacle. And again, critics recognized its power. It competed for the Golden Lion at Venice.
And she kept pushing. Next up was Night Moves in 2013, a thriller.
A thriller, yeah, also written with Raymond, about environmental activists planning to blow up a dam. So a definite shift in tone, more overt tension, paranoia, a faster pulse than some of her earlier work.
And Night Moves was different technically too, wasn't it?
Huge difference. It was the first time she shot digitally. She'd always preferred film, 16 millimeter, 35 millimeter for that texture, that grain.
That is a big shift for someone so committed to a certain aesthetic. Why digital for that one?
Well, the thinking seems to be it fit the story. Lots of secrecy, nighttime scenes. Digital often handles low light better, capturing people moving in the shadows. So it was a practical choice to serve the thriller aspect, even while she maintained that careful framing and pacing, adapting the tools, but not the core vision.
And through all this, the recognition kept coming. Guggenheim Fellowship in 2009, USA Fellowship in 2011. She was really cementing her place. And we should mention, she often edits her own films, too.
Which is crucial. If slow cinema is about pacing, then editing is pacing. By cutting her own films, she maintains absolute control over that rhythm. No one else can come in and say, let's speed this up a bit for the audience. The pauses, the long takes, they stay exactly as she intends them.
Makes sense. Then came Certain Women in 2016, based on stories by Mail Malloy this time, and a shift in location, too.
Yep, moved east to Montana for this one. And assembled this incredible cast. Williams again, Laura Dern, Lily Gladstone, Kristen Stewart. It's structured differently, too. 3 interconnected stories about women's lives in this vast landscape.
And that one also did really well, critically, internationally.
Won Best Film at the London Film Festival. So yeah, by 2016, she'd spent a solid decade proving that her quiet, detailed, uncompromising approach could consistently deliver powerful cinema that resonated globally. She was firmly established as this master of depicting the interior American experience.
Okay, that string of successes is the perfect lead into part 3. Let's really dig into the style itself, minimalism, realism, and what might be her defining trait, ambiguity.
Right. This is about her cinematic language. People always say minimalist, realist. But the critic A.O. Scott came up with a really useful term, neo-neorealism.
Neorealism. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
unpack that. What's the connection to classic Italian neorealism? Films like Rome Open City.
So, Italian neorealism came right after World War II. It was about showing the struggles of ordinary people in devastated cities, using real locations, often non-actors, focusing on economic hardship, moral gray areas, rejecting Hollywood glamour. Reichardt takes that same spirit, that commitment to showing hardship without making it pretty.
And applies it to contemporary America.
Exactly. But instead of post-war rubble, she's looking at the wreckage of, say, the industrial economy, precarious work, run-down towns, the struggle to get by on the margins. It's economic and existential fragility, filmed with that same kind of unvarnished realism. The landscapes shift from Rome to rural Oregon or Montana, but the core impulse is similar.
And that aesthetic fits hand in glove with this idea of slow cinema.
Perfectly. Matthew Flanagan's concept of slow cinema really describes her work. Long takes, very minimal dialogue, minimalist action. The drama isn't in big events, it's in the waiting, the looking, the quiet moments.
It definitely asks something different from the audience, doesn't it? You can't just sit back and let the plot wash over you.
No, you have to engage, you have to watch closely. The slow pace gives you time to think, to observe, to feel the weight of the moment. Reichardt herself talks about mainstream movie previews feeling like an assault, all the fast cuts and noise. Her films are intentionally the opposite, an antidote.
She calls them just glimpses of people passing through, not the whole story.
Right. She refuses to impose these neat beginnings, middles, and especially ends, which leads directly to that core idea, ambiguity, the rejection of easy answers.
Her films famously do not so much resolve as dissolve. Why is that so important to her?
Well, she said she's suspicious of absolutes. The traditional Hollywood the end where everything is tied up in a bow, she finds that absurd for the kind of short glimpses she offers. It's not realistic. We only see these characters for a brief time. How could we possibly know their ultimate fate? Providing that kind of closure feels false to her.
So the ambiguity is a form of realism in itself.
Precisely. And it puts the weight back on us, the viewers. Like that critic said, we're forced to write their third acts in our heads. We have to sit with the uncertainty.
Think about those characters left hanging. Kurt in Old Joy, just wandering the streets. Does he figure things out? We don't know.
Wendy and Lucy, still searching for her dog, still broke, still heading for Alaska. What happens to her?
Or the pioneers in Meek's Cutoff. Lost. Depending on a guide they can't trust. Caught between potential salvation and total disaster, we never find out which.
That lack of resolution forces you, the viewer, to actively participate, to think critically about the situations, the systems, the lack of safety nets. It reflects the reality that for many people, especially on the margins, life doesn't have neat endings.
And that ties straight into the themes we need to unpack in Part 4. Marginality, politics, and her nuanced approach to feminism. The characters she chooses, they're always vulnerable.
Consistently, her focus is on people who don't have a net. One wrong step, one bit of bad luck, and their whole world could just fall apart. She's not making films about people climbing the ladder of the American dream.
She's making films about the people the ladder seems to have forgotten. Or maybe it was never even there for them.
Exactly. That's why IndieWire called her one of the country's best chroniclers of the American experience, because she shows the parts the commercial industry ignores. The precarious jobs, the rural poverty, the housing insecurity.
And these characters often seem caught in this bind, right? Between the myth of America opportunity, the frontier, and their own limited reality.
Yeah, trapped between a mythology of greatness and the personal limitations that govern their drab realities. They're reaching for something better, but they're tethered to the economic edge.
And she uses these individual stories to make larger political points, often allegorically. Meek's Cutoff is maybe the clearest example.
It really is. And here, we need to be clear, we're reporting what Reichardt herself has stated. She explicitly confirmed that the character of Stephen Meek, the boastful, incompetent guide, was intended to echo President George W. Bush.
Okay, so the parallel she was drawing.
She described it as a story about a braggart leading a bunch of people into the desert without a plan, becoming totally reliant on local people he doesn't understand and actively mistrusts. For her, this directly mirrored the situation with the Iraq War, a confident leader taking the country into unknown territory dependent on local dynamics full of suspicion. It's a historical allegory with a very sharp contemporary edge.
That's powerful. And the political undercurrents are there in other films, too, even if more subtly, like Wendy and Lucy.
Absolutely. Coming out right before the 2008 crash, it tapped into deep economic anxiety. And some read Wendy's specific vulnerability as reflecting how women were perhaps bearing the brunt of the economic fallout from the war years, slipping through the cracks faster.
And then Night Moves isn't allegory at all, is it? It's overtly political.
Right. The protagonists are political actors, radical environmentalists. And setting it in Oregon is deliberate. The state has this long, intense history of environmental conflict, timber wars, the spotted owl controversy. She's grounding the radicalism in a real place with real history.
So how do these political themes and focus on marginalized characters connect with feminist ideas? Especially since she apparently pushes back against the label feminist filmmaker.
Yeah, she seems wary of labels, maybe feeling they're too prescriptive, but her work is undeniably packed with feminist ideas, both in content and form.
Content-wise, it's pretty obvious. Most of her films center on female characters.
Yeah.
Or, like in Certain Women, the structure ensures female perspectives dominate.
But it goes deeper than just putting women on screen. It's how she does it, how she plays with genre, for instance. Look at Old Joy, a film about two men. But she explores their friendship through vulnerability, sensitivity, qualities mainstream Hollywood often codes as feminine and avoids in male characters.
Subverting expectations of masculinity.
Exactly. And Night Moves, with its focus on environmental protection and strong female activists, aligns with eco-feminist thinking, valuing the earth, challenging destructive industrial forces.
And just her whole way of working small budgets, location shooting, realism, you could argue that's a feminist act in itself, right? Rejecting the male-dominated commercial system.
Completely. It's a resistance through practice, and her camera work reinforces that. She absolutely refuses to objectify her characters, male or female. The framing is careful, respectful. There's none of that typical cinematic gaze.
And she does that thing.
Yeah.
Lingering on details after the characters leave the shot.
Yes. That's so key. She'll hold on a landscape, a room, a discarded object. It forces you to think about the context, the environment, the labor involved, the residue of their presence, rather than just focusing on the character's emotional state or physical appearance. It challenges what we expect to see, what we value in the frame.
It slows you down again, makes you consider the whole picture.
And even using segmented narratives, like in River of Grass or Certain Women, breaks from that traditional, linear, often male-driven plot structure. It allows for multiple viewpoints, a more fragmented, perhaps more truthful reflection of reality. Her style is her politics, in many ways.
Okay, so this unwavering vision, this unique style, it hasn't faded. Which brings us to part 5, recent acclaim and what she's been doing lately.
No, if anything, the critical momentum has just kept building. After Certain Women in Montana, she came back to Oregon for First Cow in 2019, another John Raymond adaptation, this time from his novel The Half-Life.
And First Cow, that was huge critically, wasn't it?
Phenomenal. Just about unanimous praise. Critics put it up there with River of Grass as peak Reichardt. It's this beautiful, quiet story about friendship, survival, and the very beginnings of capitalism on the American frontier, centered around stealing milk from the first cow in the territory.
Classic Reichardt themes. Small scale, big implications.
Totally. But the release, oh, the timing was just brutal. It came out in March 2020.
Right when everything shut down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A24 was distributing, but the pandemic hit almost immediately. The theatrical run was basically canceled, forced onto VOD very quickly, so massive critical acclaim. But its chance in the marketplace was just wiped out by circumstance, kind of a perfect, if tragic, metaphor for her characters' lives, really.
Wow. But she kept working through that period.
She did. Her next film, Showing Up, came out in 2022. Back in Portland, Michelle Williams playing a sculptor preparing for a show. And this one hit a major milestone for her.
Which was?
It was selected for the main competition at the Cannes Film Festival, her first time competing for the Palme d'Or.
That's huge. The absolute peak of international film prestige for a director who makes such deliberately small, uncommercial films.
It's an incredible validation, proof that artistic integrity, that singular vision, can eventually reach the very highest levels of recognition, completely independent of box office.
And she didn't stop there. Her latest, The Mastermind, premiered just this year, 2025, also in competition at Cannes.
That's right, starring Josh O'Connor. So back-to-back Palme d'Or nominations. Her critical standing just keeps rising. It's undeniable now. Every film gets good reviews, and ones like River of Grass and First Cow are seen as pretty much masterpieces.
But we always have to circle back to that commercial reality, all this critical love.
Yeah.
it doesn't translate to big box office numbers.
Never has. Certain Women is still her highest grossing film, and it barely cleared $1 million, which just highlights, again, her absolute dedication to her own path. She makes the films she needs to make the way she needs to make them, and the traditional market success is just not the goal. It can't be.
So wrapping this up, our deep dive really shows how Kelly Reichardt has carved out this unique, vital space in American film. It's through that commitment to slow cinema, that unflinching look at the working class bludgeons, and a style that's both politically aware and formally inventive.
Mm-hmm.
She really is the quiet chronicler of a side of America we rarely see on screen.
Yeah. And as we finish, think about that recurring element. The lack of closure, how she deliberately leaves you hanging, thinking about these characters, wondering about their futures long after the film ends.
So here's a final thought to chew on. By denying us that easy, satisfying ending that Hollywood usually provides, that comforting lie, maybe is Reichardt doing something more profound? Is she training us perhaps to be more patient, more observant, more critically engaged with the complexities of real life, where struggles rarely just end neatly?
What does that patience for cinema demands ask of you? And what reward might you find in that patience in terms of understanding the American experience, especially for those living without that safety net? Something to consider.
Definitely something to consider. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.